Okay, so here's the way this is going to work. Basically, right now off the bat, we're going to do a quick sort of overview, teardown, and mild research into the specs of this particular rifle. Now, as I stated before, whenever I picked it up, the action and barrel were loose in the stock. Now, I was able to cinch that up by just tightening up the screws in the base. Not a big deal. No real cause for fuss. Now, there is no play. There's no wiggle in it. It's completely bedded into the action. So, now we know that the stock and barrel and action are good. Now, comes part two. We're just going to check the overall specs of the rifle right off the bat. We know it's a 7mm rim mag. We know that it functions. We got a pretty good idea that it fires, even though we haven't fired it yet. But right now, what we want to check is to make sure that the barrel and the action are in spec. Now, I can only guess and speculate as to whether or not this rifle's ever been torn down before, as pretty much the action and everything and the screws on the bottom don't show any nicks or crimps or anything showing that they've been taken out before. And honestly, the inside looks fairly clean, so it looks like it's been pretty well maintained. The action isn't split, and it's not banged up too terribly bad or dinged up in any real way. There's a few fingerprints on it other than that, and a couple little dings right down there, but nothing major, nothing to show any major impact with the ground or whatever. This is a little bit superfluous, but what we have here are called go and no-go gauges. Basically, all they're for is you put them down into the chamber and you push the bolt in and try to close it. As you can see, with the no-go gauge in, it will not close. Alright, but we have the go gauge. So, put it in, and it closes. That's what we want. So that means that this barrel is within safe spec to be fired, and we don't have to worry too much about any sort of case separation, stuff like that. So, we get those back under control. These are going to come back into play way down the line. So, and honestly, they're kind of expensive little things to have. So, we're going to hold on to them, put them safely away in a drawer on our desk, and leave them off to the side. So, part two. When you're getting a new rifle, always a good idea to inspect the chamber, make sure that it's empty, which we just shoved the go and no-go gauge in there, so we can assume there's no rifle cartridges in there or anything like that. Close the bolt and do a trigger pull. Alright, we heard the firing pin go forward, so now we know that it will fire. Or at least that the hammer does hit the firing pin. Now, on Savages, what you do is you got a bolt release lever right here. To get this to release, you hit the trigger and the bolt release at the same time. The bolt slides out. Why would you do that? Well, it gives you an opportunity to inspect the bore of the rifle. And there are borescopes and rifles, or rifle lights, or scope lights that you, borescopes and bore lights that you can use for this. This one looks honestly pretty terrible. There's a little rust and stuff in there. Don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. But no, you're not. So anyway, I guess you're just going to take my word for it. Unfortunately. But if you were able to see down the bore, which if I had a bore camera, this would be a lot easier. But if you were able to see down the bore, about midway down, we can see something that might honestly just be a bit of dust or rust, or it could be pitted bore. Who knows? All in all, it does not equal up to being a good sign. So, where do we proceed? How do we go on from here? Well, what we can do is begin stripping this rifle down. As I said before, this is a precision build. Now, part of a precision build is gathering as much data as you can about your rifle right from the get-go. This will assist in picking new cartridges, barrels, just general equipment right off the bat. Okay, now we got the action screws taken out. We're going to remove the action. Trigger guard falls out. There's the screws. We're going to want to hold on to those, save them. There's our magazine spring. And our magazine. Now, could remove the magazine. I'm not really going to work too hard at it right now. There's no point. But what I do want to do is take some measurements for the inside of the magazine, just so I know how long I can go for an overall case length. So basically, to get that, we just go from end to end on the magazine. And it gives us an overall case length of about 3.46 inches. Honestly, if to get your ammo to fit and cycle well, you really want to stay a little under that. Obviously, you don't want your ammunition touching the sides of the mag well. So we're going to go for about 3.44, 3.40, somewhere around there for overall case length. Alright, so we got that done. We can inspect the action, look at the trigger and everything. It looks to be fairly good. It is adjustable by the look of it. So, no real worries there. Might be worth later on down the road. We might change the trigger out, I'm not sure. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to see about taking off this barrel nut. Get your laughter out of the way now. Now, I'm not 100% sure that my wrench is going to clear this sight, so we might end up having to take the sight off first, which means that we're going to go on a many month-long odyssey to go find a screwdriver, because I'm not sure where mine is. Alrighty, so after a lengthy search and looking through all the kitchen drawers and a small fight with a Balrog, finally found a screwdriver that will fit the screws and got the sight blade off. Now I'm also going to take off the sight base just to sort of simplify things. And boom, there we go. We have one partially de-sighted barrel. Now, hopefully, we can use our wrench, yep, and our vise to remove the barrel nut. Now, here's how this is going to work, just to keep a few people from getting upset with what I'm about to do. I want you to know I'm not going to clamp my bench vise down on this action here. You don't want to do that. All you're looking to do is get the action in here. Like, you see how much it'll move? But it won't rotate. That's all you want. You want it to not rotate. Alright? And hey, look at that. We just figured out how to remove the magazine. Alright. No? Get a good bite on her here. And again, you want movement. Movement's not a problem. You just want it to sit in there nice and neat, properly positioned. Preferably with a rag to give some dampening effect. And one loosened barrel nut. And as such, one loosened barrel. Now, boom. Now it's at this point you might be asking, well, how are you going to fire that thing if you just took it apart like that? Oh, sorry, cat. I mean, you just ruined your headspace. You just took apart your rifle. You took it out of stock. Took the sights off. It's going to be totally inaccurate if you fired it again. Well, this is where it comes down to decision-making time. I've already made one decision. That one decision is, in spite of the fact that this rifle might be safe to fire, technically, it makes no sense to fire it because part of the bore is totally eaten out. Like, don't know how much you're going to be able to see there, but it ain't pretty. Let me tell you that. So, this might sound ridiculous, preposterous even, maybe even a little bit dumb, but when it comes down to it, what I actually just bought and paid for is this. A perfectly good, usable, in fairly decent shape action. Now, in case there are those of you who haven't seen one in a good light, there you go. This is one Savage Arms long action bolt and trigger assembly. This is the part of your gun that is actually a gun. This is the part of your gun that is registered as a firearm. So, when we're going over this, what we need to do first off, get the bolt out of it. What we need to do is, as we did with the magazine, we need to take measurements on this and figure out what all the tolerances are. We also need to inspect any kind of surfaces down inside the bolt face right here, or the bolt face right here, and the bolt lugs. Because the way this gets more accuracy out of it is if the back of these lugs completely contact the face of the action inside here. So what we're going to do is true that up, maybe with some lapping compound, just stick it in there on the back of the lugs, rotate around, get that surface nice and polished. Another thing we're going to do is find a better basically chassis to put this in. And on top of that, find a better barrel. Okay, so like I said, I got nothing against people that use open sights. They're very good for what they're designed for. But at the end of the day, they're not good for what I'm going to be doing with them. So the high note is this is the original barrel, Savage Model 110E, caliber 7mm rim mag. I am going to swab this out just to double check if that's actually rust or if that's just dirt or something. Some of the stuff I'm going to be saving off of this: the recoil lug, the action, obviously, trigger, bolt, and I guess the barrel nut. Everything else goes. So if anybody needs a Savage Arms stock that is approved, that's interesting, an approved Savage Arms stock, let me know. I will be saving the magazine and the magazine spring. Although, honestly, could possibly get bigger. Let's see what we got here. Ugh, it's hard to get my calipers in there. Alright, so the inside of the action gives us an overall case length of 3.64 inches. So there's room for expansion. Maybe by not using this magazine. I don't know, we'll see. So, knowing what I know now, basically given the dimensions of the action, the magazine opening, the bolt face, which the bolt face comes in at basically 0.54, allegedly. Somewhere between 0.532 and 0.54. That gives me a whole wide range of cartridges to go over, which I'll go over in a later video. Right now, like I said, I'm going to clean up some of this stuff. All the important stuff that I want to keep, like the magazine, the action, and the bolts, and the recoil lug. Well, possibly the recoil lug. I might get me one of those. Recoil lug and bolt. They're all, or nut, recoil lug, bolt, magazine, action. That's what we're keeping. Alright, and possibly the trigger ring. This is what we're keeping. Barrel and stock, gone. Screws. Gonna hold on to those just in case. A lot of times the stocks that you get come with them. And believe me, I'm not sure if I'm putting these in the right holes or not. This one, honestly, will go in with the trigger guard. And we're going to keep these in their own little spot, in their own little container. Everything else for the build will either go in the trash, or if any of my friends are in need, I got some parts for them. So, till next time, this is the Savage 110E build, officially underway. Even though we haven't built nothing and have just torn down stuff and maybe, you know, maybe not even bothered to use it. Who knows? We'll see. But either way, I'll give you an update on the barrel as soon as I clean it and see what that's got going on. And yeah, I'll catch up with you next time. Nighty night.